What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bridging the Geekdoms. I'm your host, Robert Slavinsky, and with me today is not just one, but two. Both of my co-hosts are here for the first time in the history of Bridging the Geekdoms. We got Kenneth Yambo and Colton Berg. What is going on, gentlemen?
Stuff as I break the fourth wall and touch my camera.
Oh, man.
Technically third wall, but yeah, no, definitely good to be on with you guys, and what a way to kick off the year. So definitely ready to get excited and look back before we can start looking forward for sure. So let's get it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about this show. For those of you who are new to our podcast or to our YouTube show, this is normally a show where we just sit around, bullshit, and talk about the latest that's going on in the pop culture world. Sometimes we have some newsworthy items and, a main topic at the end. But this show, kicking off the new year, is a little bit different. This one here, we're going to discuss and talk about and give out our awards for the best of the best and even the worst of the worst for the year of 2022 when it comes to film and television. I know Colton, he's more of a video game guy, and maybe we can get him to do a video game one within the next week or so. Hopefully, be nice. Yeah. But we're going to specifically talk about movies and television shows today. So let me ask you guys, because 2020, we know that was all absolutely mayhem due to COVID. Going into 2022, when it comes to film and TV, did you have any expectations? Were your excitement levels up? Like, what was going on in your head with that kind of stuff?
Well, I figured it couldn't be any worse than 2020 or 2021, to be honest. I mean, I kind of gave everybody some time to think about life and stuff like that. So couldn't be any worse.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of big titles that were coming into 2022 that I was looking forward to. There was definitely a lot of anticipation for a bunch of movies, honestly. I thought the anticipation for movies like The Batman and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and even Thor Love and Thunder, despite what we got, it was definitely Thor Love and Thunder, I feel like, is a perfect analogy to the year where we definitely got a mixed bag in terms of quality versus the amount of content that we got. But overall, I'm satisfied, honestly. I am every movie I had something that I really liked about the movie, so I definitely took away the year that there's a lot that could be improved upon, especially on a special couple different studios for sure. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, I was definitely grateful to see what we saw, and definitely some crazy moments. And overall, I thought the content was a solid B for sure. Definitely have had better years for sure in terms of grades of content, but for what was given, I thought definitely B is what I'm comfortable giving the year for sure. But that was kind of my expectation going in. I thought we were going to get a bunch of movies that were going to be crazy, but kind of fell short on that. But some movies definitely excel better than others. So that's kind of my overall eulogy for the 2022 year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it comes down to just the quality. I knew that there was reason to worry with everything that happened in 2020 and 2021. And I really worried about how well these shows and these movies would be developed and produced and created. And for me, it didn't live up to what it should have been. There were many, many issues in regards to special effects or story or just different aspects of it. And I do know that the industry is trying to change to make things a lot easier. If you take a look at what Lucasfilm created with The Volume, what they did with The Mandalorian, and then they utilized it for other films and have, really, really tried to use that. And it is a great piece of technology, but you're starting to see and realize when it's being used, which kind of hurts your experience in being, just kind of embraced by a film or a TV show because it's so noticeable. So that was kind of my biggest concern going into 2022 is, are we going to see these struggles from, the companies because of all let's take a look at what happened with Spider-Man. I know that was 2021, but you take a look at what happened with Spider-Man. That movie was being worked on until literal days before it came out. And it wasn't the only movie. You take a look at what happened with Warner Brothers and how they pushed back so many films because they just didn't have time to get things completed. So that's kind of what I worried about and looked at for 2022. There's obviously a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows that came out this year. We're gonna only touch on just a nut hair's worth of them, really, because there's just so many of them. There's just no way that I had time to watch every. I know neither of you had time to watch all of them, but we're going to talk about our favorites, what we think were the best, male performances, female performances, characters, and all of that. And so we're going to get into it here. And I think the first one that I really want to talk about, where it is here, is the best new character introduced in 2022. I think this is a really cool topic, and this isn't one that I would have thought of. I give you a lot of credit, Ken, for bringing this up, because when you take a look at all of the films and TV shows that we got this year, a lot of it was new IP / new introduction to characters. I mean, we had people like Jack Russell from Werewolf by Night. We had Jennifer Walters from She-Hulk, Soldier Boy from The Boys, Reva from Obi-Wan. We had Ironheart from Black Panther. So there was a lot that came out in these, especially the comic book film and comic book areas. So let me ask you, Ken, I want you to start off with this one. Who do you think was the best new character introduced in 2022?
It's definitely a lot of options to choose from. I know that you've listed a few, and it was definitely hard to kind of narrow down. Even thinking about it now, it definitely is, because I actually don't have the sheet that I sent to you with my answers, honestly. So, and I don't know if this is one of the answers that I was filled out, but so now I'm kind of trying to scramble in my head the options that I had. But just kind of looking at it and kind of off the top of my head, there's definitely a couple of different options. I thought Moon Knight was an interesting character going into it, and kind of seeing how his story kind of progressed was really crazy. I thought, obviously introduction of a new Gotham world with, the supporting characters in terms of Selena Kyle and Penguin and all that stuff, and a couple of shows that introduced some really cool iterations of characters. But I guess for me, I might go against my answer that I put on paper, but for me now, thinking about it, I really would want to go with Moon Knight, honestly. I thought Moon Knight was a really dope character that was introduced. I thought the mythology was really well done, and honestly, it's one of the few shows that they've introduced a character, and I really want to see a lot more of that character moving forward, whether it's a continuation, a season 2 of Moon Knight, or even have him incorporated in some type of movie somehow. So Moon Knight for me is actually kind of the best character that was introduced in 2022 for me, at least. So
yeah, Oscar Isaac was badass in that role. I don't think he's going to get enough love, the kind of love that he deserves, any kind of awards, even though he put on quite a show, quite a work of art with that, what he portrayed. I mean, he was multiple characters. It was really impressive. Yeah. Colton, what do you have in mind?
Well, as a slave to the postal machine, I don't really have time to ever do anything. So, I mean, I really only watched most of Obi-Wan, so I'm gonna have to go with Reva or Reva, gotcha, or whatever. I can't really pronounce names. But I mean, she was like, if you've played Fallen Order, spoiler or heads up for the new one coming out in a couple months. But she kind of embodied the I can't remember her name, the one that gets killed by Vader. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
She kind of like brought that character to the screen, and you kind of see the mirror of it. It's kind of cool.
Was that the Ninth Sister? Not the Ninth Sister.
I can't. She was Sierra's apprentice.
Yeah,
and then turned to the dark side. But yeah, she kind of brought that character from the game to the show, which was cool to see.
Yeah, and it's not a bad choice. My issue with Obi-Wan and with Reva is she shouldn't have been in that show. She should have had her own show. That should have been in a completely different show. Her story just did not fit, because that is not the story we signed up for. So that's my only issue with it. But no, she's not a bad character at all. I really enjoyed her character. It just was not good for that show. I myself, I kind of went back and forth with Mark Spector, Moon Knight, or Jack Russell from Werewolf by Night. Jack Russell is the main character from Werewolf by Night, and that special just actually blew me away. I was hoping it was going to be good. When I saw the first trailer, I got kind of hesitant with it because you could tell they were going for that like old 40s feel for the show. And I was like, I don't know how it's going to work. But when I watched it, what is it, 45 minutes long or an hour long, something like that? I couldn't believe it's made me excited to see more of the occult, more of the supernatural side of Marvel. And that's what I've been looking forward to for so long. So I'm going with Jack Russell from Werewolf by Night in my best new character introduced in 2022. Let's see. Now moving on, because with every new character introduced, we also had new shows introduced. And I don't think this is one that was on here. No, we didn't have best new show, but we had biggest surprise property. That's what it was. Biggest surprise property. So with every character, you have to have a property. You have to have a show that everybody's on. And this one was one, I mean, we could take a look at many. Again, there was new shows, old shows. I'm going to let Colton start here. I don't know what he's had a chance to watch or check out, but when it comes to, for you, what was the property that surprised you the most?
Well, it's not 2022, but I've been watching Peaky Blinders, but no, I'd probably have to go with the only other show I've really had time to watch is Peacemaker. So, I mean, it's cool watching John Cena do John Cena things, but not be John Cena. So,
literally, yeah.
I mean, John Cena cussing is kind of cool. So, I mean, and being kind of gay, but not really, maybe. I don't know.
Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, Peacemaker was probably the biggest surprise because, I mean, his character kind of stood out in Suicide Squad, the James Gunn Suicide Squad. So, I mean, kind of seeing a character that did deserve a TV show get a TV show and it not be a turd is always nice to see.
So what do you think, Ken? What's been yours?
Okay, so kind of facing the same problem again, kind of scrambling through the options that were introduced to us this year. But I guess biggest surprise for me would definitely be, I guess along the lines of Peacemaker, but to just kind of give a different answer, it would probably have to be She-Hulk, honestly. And that's kind of in a mixed way, in terms of a good way and a bad way. It kind of surprised me in just the way it went in terms of story direction and just story choices, and the way that it ended and everything was definitely a big surprise to me, honestly. I thought it was interesting, to say the least. I thought some of the creative decisions were definitely interesting. So in terms of surprise, that was definitely, She-Hulk definitely had my jaw drop a couple of different times. So.
Yeah, I can't agree with you at all with She-Hulk, but I will go and agree with Colton here with Peacemaker. I wasn't really sure what to expect going into Peacemaker because, like you said, Colton, the Suicide Squad was great. I thought that what they did with Peacemaker was really interesting. And obviously they announced the Peacemaker show before the Suicide Squad even came out. So we had that to look forward to. But even watching the trailers, it was kind of like, what are they going for here exactly? Like, what was it that they were trying to do? It wasn't until because I didn't jump on the bandwagon right away. I actually waited probably a good 4 or 5 weeks before I even jumped on and started watching Peacemaker. And when I did, I was like, wow, I can't believe I waited. Like, why did I wait? This is hilarious. This is awesome. It's John Cena not doing necessarily John Cena things, being absolutely hilarious. And I loved that. I really did love that. And he's another one, what Peacemaker, what John Cena did with Peacemaker, he's another one that you could put up there with best performances and in 2022. And we'll get to that. That's a possibility that he can make that list or make that award in some form or fashion, because what he did was fantastic. And I hate to say, I'm going to get into it a little bit here, but the way that everybody's treating James Gunn right now and acting like he is the worst thing to ever grace comic book movies, it's ridiculous, because you take a look at how well received something like Peacemaker was, and there's nothing but excitement for that. Like I'm absolutely excited for that. But yeah, so I go with Peacemaker.
I actually would like to change my choice because kind of reflecting, I actually kind of remembered something. So my second option was actually going to be Miss Marvel. or this, because I thought we did a couple of shows before it came out, and I just felt like our expectations were extremely low for that show. And I was definitely decently surprised in terms of the quality of the show the first couple of episodes, honestly. So I actually would kind of change my answer to Miss Marvel just because of my expectations going into it were super low, and it ended up really not disappointing me at all. So
yeah. Not bad. All right. So next, let's take a look at, since that was our biggest surprise, what was the most disappointing property? You know, we've done some great things, but obviously there's some, you know, shitty things that happened in 2022. And for instance, we had movies like Morbius. We had shows like She-Hulk. We had Jurassic World Dominion. We had Thor Love and Thunder. There's some people who say Black Adam was terrible. I mean, when it comes down to it, what was the most disappointing property to you in 2022? And I'm actually going to start here. And probably to no surprise of anybody, I'm going with She-Hulk. She-Hulk was an abomination of what Marvel shows and properties should be. It encapsulated everything that is wrong, that is going on with the comic book genre at this point in time. This show had so much potential. When you take a look at Jennifer Walters and you take a look at She-Hulk in the comics and how great and how innovative it was at the time, they had a real opportunity to bring something that is completely different that we haven't seen in the MCU to the MCU. And it's really disappointing because they started off pretty strong. I thought the first episode was pretty strong, and it really gave you a sense of what they could have done, you know, with the fourth wall breaking and the smart ass remarks by her, and really kind of giving you a character to enjoy watching. But it truly turned into a show that focused on the wokeness of the world. And I know a lot of people will sit there and say, you don't understand. It was a show going against the internet trolls. No, I completely understand that. They just failed at doing it well. Because there's a way to do that where it can be done well. But they didn't go that route. They went and they tried to shove their message in ways that were just hypocritical and just annoying. And to me, that was disappointing because I really had a lot of high hopes for this show, and it just fell on its face. Really did. Ken, how about you?
Okay, so biggest disappointment for me, and to be honest with you, I feel like it's not even close, would be Thor Love and Thunder. I thought just the expectations coming into the movie, like, dope, we're about to get another ride with Taika Waititi and Thor. Like, I thought it was a good premise. I thought Christian Bale going into it as Gore the God Butcher was definitely interesting and was definitely a highlight for me throughout the whole movie itself, but obviously just fell flat. Humor wasn't really there. I could just list a bunch of things, honestly, that just was really wrong with this movie. You mentioned special effects as a kind of a theme for the year. I think this is kind of the poster child for this kind of talk and rhetoric, honestly.
Did you see Morbius? That was pretty
Listen, if we're trying to go for Razzies, I think both of them should be nominated, honestly. But I honestly really was surprised of how bad Thor Love and Thunder was. Quite frankly, honestly, I thought it was a zip of a movie in terms of timing, and then the plot was really messy. The writing was extremely, I don't want to say childish, but just not really there, not there in the strength that we were used to for a character like Thor. Even in the first two movies when he was written as a Shakespearean character, I thought he was definitely really well written throughout the first three movies, and this was definitely a step down in quality. So I think they really dropped the ball on the whole Jane becoming Thor thing. Like, we're just supposed to accept that she gets the Mjolnir just pretty much because in a flashback that's kind of a recon, he kind of like just tells the hammer to protect her. I don't know. I thought it could just been handled better. So overall, I thought there were some highlights. I thought Thor's performance obviously always comes to bat, and Christian Bale's performance was obviously intriguing for sure. But I just thought it fell flat for me, and probably a signal that Taika Waititi's time in the Marvel and MCU world is hopefully coming to an end, honestly. I think his style for at least Thor Love and Thunder wouldn't work for future movies. Yeah. And I believe Chris Hemsworth has even stated that he really hopes that the character goes into a different direction the next movie or his next appearance or something. So Definitely Thor: Love and Thunder is the most disappointing, I guess, property I've seen in 2022.
Yep. And Colton.
Well, I hope this isn't limited to just nerd stuff, because the most disappointing was Halloween Ends.
Okay.
Where Michael Myers doesn't make an appearance in his own movie.
I have to agree. It wasn't great. It was not great movie. It was not a great movie in any sense. And I really, really loved Halloween Kills. I loved Halloween Kills. The first one in 2018, I wasn't a big fan of. I felt that they got away from what made Michael Myers and that property what it was in the first one. They made it again. The problem with Halloween always was that they made it too much about Michael Myers against Laurie Strode. That's kind of what happened with the entire franchise. It was always Michael versus Laurie, Michael versus Laurie, Michael versus Laurie, and that was a big issue. And Halloween Kills, he got back to being the menace of Haddonfield. He was that menace that was just wreaking havoc on everybody within the neighborhood. And that is what I really, truly liked about that film, because it got away from the Laurie. Laurie was in a hospital the whole time. Like, that was great because she was away. It wasn't about her. And then the next one, they're just like, well, what if we take both of them out of it?
Yeah, then it's just like, Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't a great movie. I honestly, if it wasn't for She-Hulk being that bad, both of your choices are damn good, because
a close second
was bad.
A close second for me, that's kind of like a legacy sequel and a legacy kind of movie franchise, kind of like Halloween, would be Jurassic World Dominion. I thought that movie also fell flat in terms of the premise, and really made the last movie in the Jurassic World and Jurassic Park franchise about like locusts. So it was really interesting, honestly. I thought it was an interesting way for all the characters to interact and the way that it all ended. But obviously I love it just because, dinosaurs and all that stuff. But I also thought that was extremely underwhelming for what I thought it could have been versus what we actually got.
Yeah, definitely. I unfortunately went and saw that in the drive-in, and had a terrible experience.
I'm sorry.
So, like, not only was the movie not good to me, but my experience at the drive-in sucked. So it was just not a good time for me at all. So hopefully I get to check it out again at some point. But I wasn't a big fan of it, so I have no desire to really watch it again unless I absolutely have to. So yeah, but I mean, that's the thing when it comes to bad movies. Like I said, there was Morbius. There was, some people a lot of people didn't like Black Adam. I thought it was a solid film. I'm not saying it changed the world at all, but I thought it was a solid film.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's take what wasn't was that this year? Was that, I think this was last year? There was a horror film that came out. Malignant, was that this year or last year? That movie was
last year.
That was horrendous. Smile was good, not great. I mean, there's some,
the marketing for Smile was probably better than the movie.
Very true, very true. Yeah, I mean, there again, we're not just staying confined to superhero pop culture things. It could be anything. So
I agree with you. I agree with you with Smile. Smile, I went into it also with some expectations just because of the way it was marketed, as you said, Colton. So going into it and kind of getting what we got, it was like, oh, the marketing was better than the movie itself. So
it was like a Truth and Dare mixed with a It Follows film.
Yeah, and it wasn't a terrible movie, but it just wasn't that great.
Right, yeah, no. The marketing definitely did justice for that movie, for sure.
For sure, yeah. All right, so let's move on to what we think the best scene within any property was of 2022. And this one I know is a little more difficult because, I mean, there's a lot of cool scenes. I know that some people really, really love the chase scene in the Batman. People loved that. There's some people that loved the beginning of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So there's a lot of cool scenes that happened throughout this year. But I think, and I'm just going to start with this one because I don't want anybody else to take it. I want it. The first 10 minutes of the first episode of The Boys this year, of this season, was fucking insane. Like, I'm sorry. The fact, and spoiler warning, if you haven't seen it, shame on you. You need to go see it. But you actually see a character shrink down and go inside a man's penis and jack him off from inside his penis.
That's
Who would have ever thought?
That's what happens to me on a regular basis.
Like, who would have thought we would have ever seen that ever in any medium ever? It's absolutely insane. And I think just from the shock value, that to me is the best scene, because it was just so unexpected, so off the wall. And I think that took some balls to do it. I mean, it really did. So, Ken, what would you say is the best scene this year?
So I'm not gonna lie. Excuse me. I'm not gonna lie. I just opened the document that had the my answers and stuff. And when I saw your answer, I was like, wow, he took away my boys' thunder for sure. But I'm gonna go a different route for season 3 of The Boys, and my best scene would be Homelander versus Billy Butcher versus Soldier Boy. Honestly, if you guys have seen the season and have just seen the rivalry between Billy Butcher and Homelander, this was kind of like the ultimate like meeting of it, and it all happened wrapped around the what was the name of it here, the Hero-gasm episode.
Hero-gasm episode, yeah.
And you wouldn't expect that, and I think that's something that really highlights what The Boys does. It finds moments where it makes the show really grounded and really really hits the fans hard in moments where you think it wouldn't. And a whole episode in Hero-gasm, you thought it was just going to be typical boys debauchery, and it was for the most part. And but just to see that basically everything was coming to a head at the end, and watching all 3 of them fight each other, not really knowing where it's going to go, just because you know how crazy the boys get sometimes, was definitely a highlight for me, and is definitely something that stood out. But I also want to give a quick shout out to Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader in Obi-Wan, in any scene that they were together in, honestly. So I know that you're kind of on the opposite end of that, but yeah, no, was definitely a highlight for me for sure as well.
Colton.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the Obi-Wan versus Vader at the end of Obi-Wan. But I'll say something different, and it might not be a very good scene, but I liked it, and I don't really have time to watch anything ever. When Wanda basically dispatched the Illuminati and
Ooh, okay.
Madness. Yeah, that's a good scene. I
mean, it just shows Wanda how powerful she actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was gory and kind of graphic for a Marvel movie. So
yeah, 100%.
It's always nice to see that.
That was crazy. Definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I do agree with you. In the same vein, I'm kind of throwing another curveball at all of you, because this isn't on the sheet, but you guys just made me think about it. What was the most disappointing moment in a property this year? Like, yeah, we talked about the most disappointing property, but what was the most disappointing moment? Yes, absolutely, go.
The whole season finale of She-Hulk. Like, just like, what the actual shit was going on? Like, I just felt like it was an advertisement to go visit Marvel Studios wherever they're located, honestly, like just to take a tour and stuff. Like, I was just so lost and just kind of like, what the hell happened in here? But kind of surprising that Kevin Feige kind of signed off on that. But then again, it was kind of about him as well, so kind of a meta joke to him, I guess. So, but yeah, no, that whole season finale of She-Hulk counts for me as the most disappointing scene ever, because that was something.
Colton, you got anything?
The most disappointing moment, I would say the moment I walked in to see Morbius. I mean, it's not really pertaining to the movie. It's not a scene from the movie, but I mean, it was a very disappointing moment.
You would have plenty of options if you just went for any scene in Morbius.
Yeah, just walking into the theater and being.
Yeah, no, definitely a smart choice for that one, honestly.
And the reason why I decided to ask this one is because you both mentioned Obi-Wan versus Vader. For me, that is the most disappointing moment in any project this year. For me, I've waited 15 plus years for that moment. I've waited since the end of Revenge of the Sith to see that moment, to finally see this moment where Obi-Wan confronts Vader, his friend, again. And I didn't know I wanted it until they were like, hey, it's coming. But I wanted it, and I didn't realize how bad I wanted it, and it didn't deliver. Because, for one, let's take a look at something here. All right, when Obi-Wan walks away from Anakin on Mustafar, it makes sense. He is in flames. He's burning. There's no one in their right mind is going to think he's going to survive this. All right. So when he walks away, to him, he's going to die. And he killed his brother. He killed his best friend. But he finds out that he failed, that he did not complete his mission. Obi-Wan failed. So when he discovers this, when he finds out that he failed, he then faces him again. And literally walks away. He has him. He has Vader. And instead of completing his mission, he allows the most dangerous man, the most dangerous being in the universe, go and to walk free. And that was just bad writing, because they could have written in a way like a great, I heard, I think it was Christian Harloff on The Big Thing or The Next Thing or whatever he calls his show now. And he was talking about how really easily they could have been in the middle of a fight and Obi-Wan could have had the upper hand, and a TIE fighter could have just came and shot and blasted them apart. And Obi-Wan had to escape and run away. And that's why Vader survived. There is literally no reason why Vader should have survived the way he did there. Not one reason at all. Not to mention that they then also stole almost verbatim the scene from Rebels with Vader and Ahsoka. Like, get some originality. Think of something different. Think of something better that you can do. So to me, it was the most disappointing because it wasn't what we should have gotten. It wasn't, it was just bad writing. It makes Obi-Wan look like a shitty Jedi, like a bad character. And it was just bad all around.
They were setting up for the sequel, you know?
Oh yeah. It's because they're going to meet 10 more times now because Lucasfilm doesn't know how to do shit right anymore. All right, move. All right. So moving on, we're going to talk about the best villain in 2022. We have some cool ones. Arthur Harrow from Moon Knight, the Toxic Fanboys have you from She-Hulk, Wanda Maximoff from the Doctor Strange, Green Goblin, Namor, and so many others. So who would you say, Colton, was the best, meaning that they were a good villain for what they had to do, of course. Not that they're good guys, because the villains are bad. But what would you say was the best villain this year?
Morbius.
Morbius for everything.
Yeah, Morbius just down the list. Actually, Jared Leto, because he signed up to play that character. I'd probably say Wanda Maximoff. I mean, like, again, it kind of builds from what we see in WandaVision. Bob, I know you don't like that. Actually, honestly, you see kind of building up from like what Age of Ultron to really Multiverse of Madness and Wanda's mental instability. Yeah, instability. There we go. But mental instability and like her inability to like let go of attachments.
What do you got, Ken?
So for me, honestly, when I looked, I saw that you put an option for Toxic Fanboys, and honestly, I was just going to say that, but not in support of the Toxic Fanboys that we saw in She-Hulk, but just in general this year. I feel like we've seen a lot of. I think the real villain of the year has really been a small selection of the fan base, but definitely fan base that has made himself known and have had a loud voice, unfortunately, that have influenced some events that have happened that we've seen over the past couple of months with everything happening with DC and stuff. So actually, there's a lot of good nominees, but for me personally, just looking at the year in general, I think the selection of fans that choose to represent certain movements in the bad light rather than in the good and cheerful light that they were forged in the first place. So that's actually my answer, to be honest with you.
I'm actually going to change my answer with you and join you in that, because you're not wrong. And I can't tell you how many discussions, debates, arguments that I've been getting into on social media because of these people, because they don't seem to understand that what they are doing is toxic, is completely against everything that they fought for and pushed for and stood for just a year or two ago. And you're not wrong. They really are the biggest villain of this year, because they have single-handedly destroyed an entire movie franchise to the point where they need to essentially reboot almost from the beginning, from scratch. So yeah, I mean, I initially had Ethan Hawke's Arthur Harrow from Moon Knight because I thought he did a phenomenal job.
If we're actually going to choose a character, I would probably go that route, or I would probably lean on the route of Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. Like, I thought it was such an out there performance that
it
it was
so underutilized.
Yep, no, definitely for sure. But for what we got, I thought it was definitely the best new part of that movie that was introduced to us. So I thought his performance definitely stood out. But I'd probably have to go your route and go with Ethan Hawke's Arthur Harrow, honestly, because I thought his character really stood out in Moon Knight.
For sure, yeah. But no, you definitely had a great answer when it comes to the toxicity that is out there right now. And I've made videos about it, and it's not because I'm trying to be negative. It's not because I'm trying to start any shit. I'm trying to open everybody's eyes to showing everyone, like, look, this is what we fought against, and you've become the very thing you swore to destroy. Yes, I used the line from Star Wars, but they really have, and it's really disappointing. So I hope that things start to change in that regard. Over the next year, especially during 2023, because I think 2023 is going to be a pretty interesting year, which we'll get into here momentarily. But we have a few more to discuss. So the next ones I want to discuss, we're going to talk about performances. Best male performance. We have things like Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne Batman, Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, Anthony Starr as Homelander, and Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, as well as many, many more. For one, I already talked about it a little bit earlier. Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight was superb. I don't think he's gotten enough love for what he did there. But what do you have, Colton, for best performance for male?
Robert Pattinson. Mainly because he went from being a sparkly vampire to being the knight. And honestly, he didn't do a bad job at it. I preferred his emo look to it and everything. I mean, he did well.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the Batman, though, I mean, while he did a great job, I think when I think of performances, I come back to Colin Farrell's Penguin, because he was not Colin Farrell in any way, shape, or form. The performance he did as the Penguin was phenomenal. Even though I wasn't a big fan of that film, I can appreciate the performances that these characters put on. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad choice, Robert Pattinson. What do you got, Ken?
So I'm going to go a little against the grain here, and kind of go with a movie that's been berated, obviously, recently with the light of the recent news. But The Rock as Black Adam, I thought was dope. Honestly, I thought, going into it, I had a certain expectation of, all right, we're going to get the classic rom-com, just comedy mixed with just action rock, and I thought we got a little bit of a more layered performance that we've seen from him. I thought it was a little more serious than I've seen him in most of the roles that I've seen him in. I think maybe the first time we catch Hobbs and Fast and Furious kind of reminded me of that demeanor in a way that I'm here and I'm going to kick your ass, honestly. So I thought he definitely encaptured the scope of the character in terms of his power level and just everything. So I thought he did a really good job, despite the movie obviously standing where it stands with financial gain and critical gain and just fan base gain that The Rock completely tried to take over DC, and that failed, and all that good stuff, and tequila meetings and behind the backs and all that stuff, and ex-wives and all that good stuff. But I thought overall, it was a really good performance, and I thought he really killed it, honestly. And I thought that was the biggest highlight for me coming out of that movie was, wow, The Rock actually kind of acted a little bit rather than, just showing up as The Rock and just being The Rock, honestly. So that's my entry for best male performance of the year.
The Rock playing The Rock in The Rock. Oh no, Black Adam.
It was The Boulder. The Rock playing The Rock in The Boulder.
He did a decent job. Again, the movie was well enough. It wasn't anything spectacular. I enjoyed it. He didn't do anything that was anything more than The Rock, in my opinion. But hey, that's your choice. You're allowed to have choices and opinions, I guess. All right. Moving on, we're going to talk about best female performance in 2022. And we had some great ones. Tatiana Maslany and as She-Hulk, Letitia Wright in Black Panther, Elizabeth Olsen in Doctor Strange, Iman Vellani in Miss Marvel. I mean, there's a lot of great performances. We're going to go, Ken, what do you think was the best female performance?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit and go with two, but in the same movie, so I'm going to go Shuri and her mom in Black Panther. The name of the actress is escaping me, honestly, but I thought both of their performances were really captivating. Honestly, I thought they captured the emotion that was necessary for this movie that it needed to carry in terms of obviously everything that happened with Chadwick Boseman and the passing of that character. And I thought Shuri especially was an emotionally charged character throughout. Did it really well. Obviously, the Black Panther scenes were really dope to see her in, and I thought she carried herself well in those as well. So I thought the balance of emotion, anger, and just straight up action and kicking ass in the Black Panther suit was definitely a balance that was hard to capture, and I thought she did a really good job, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds for her character, and obviously, spoiler alert, but obviously her little nephew over there as well. So
yeah. So you're talking about Angela Bassett, who is
yes.
Who plays Ramonda, and
Ramonda,
then
yes.
Letitia Wright, who plays Shuri. So
Yep.
yeah. I mean, again, they're not bad choices, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion about Angela Bassett possibly getting nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her portrayal and the way that she was in that film. So absolutely, I mean, great performance. Colton, what do you got, man?
I'm bad with
Jared
names.
Leto is
yeah, Jared Leto. His hair's long enough. What's her face in She-Hulk herself?
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, it's just because it was like kind of charismatic and
and that's
discount
the thing.
Deadpool.
that's what really angers me about that show, because she was phenomenal as the character. Yeah, she really encapsulated everything that Jennifer Walters and She-Hulk is. The writing was ass.
Yeah, that she did well for what she had. I mean, you can only do so much with
with Kevin Feige as a robot.
Yeah, you can only do so much. But I mean, I thought she did well for what she had.
Yeah. I'm gonna go, and I'm sticking with Marvel here. It's kind of crazy that for how much Marvel struggled this year, we got some amazing performances out of these characters, out of these actors, and this year. And for me, was a brand newcomer, somebody who's never been in a television show or movie ever in her life, and that's Iman Vellani, who played Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. She was phenomenal. She was charming. She was funny. She had so much heart. There was so much that she brought to that character. And while I was watching that show, I was like, I see it. I see why Kevin Feige chose her, because she just brought so much to that role, to that character, to that show. And I'm telling you guys right now, I'm serious. We got the Marvels coming out this year. She's going to be the star of that film. She's going to outshine Brie Larson and anybody else that's in that movie. She's going to be the star of that film.
Do you see the wall behind me? That would outshine Brie Larson. So, I mean, it's not much there.
But she was phenomenal. Iman Vellani, give it up to her. She was great, and I hate how much crap that show got. It was a damn good show, and
yeah, no, definitely, our surprising property for sure.
And also our first true introduction to the possibility and soon to be revealed mutant gene in Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
All right. So next we're going to talk about the best show of 2022. Not film, but show. Boys Season 3. This could just be seasons, obviously. So it could be The Boys Season 3. It could be Obi-Wan, Andor, Moon Knight, Sandman. It had to have started in 2022. So keep that in mind. It could still be running right now, but it had to have started in 2022. So with that said, Ken, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so obviously if you watch the weekly show that we do, big advocate of The Boys and always tried to get a boys section on. So my nomination this year would be Season 3 of The Boys. I think obviously it had a lot to balance, and I thought it did everything extremely well. Did it end the way that it was supposed, the way that fans anticipated? Probably not. I think The Boys definitely, and a lot of shows have a lot of problems kind of wrapping the bow neatly on the end of seasons, but I thought for what it was really well written. I thought it was well acted. I thought Anthony Starr's performance was definitely a breakout performance for me, because you really get to see Homelander for the first time fractured inside. So I thought it was really cool to see a lot of things that happen. And plus, we got the Hero-gasm episode, and we really just delved into the craziness of The Boys times 10. And as Rob mentioned, the first 10 minutes of The Boys season 3 is just, if that's not pull enough for you to watch this show, I don't really know what else is going to pull you in. But season 3, it's a landslide, not even close. Anything that they would tell you is not going to even come close. But season 3 of The Boys is the nomination.
What he said. Yeah, Boys 3 was phenomenal. That season 3 was phenomenal. And yeah, I was sitting here thinking about all of the shows that I have watched this year. And obviously, the show for me, the best show that's on television right now is Yellowstone. I absolutely love that show. What was it? 1883 was phenomenal. 1923 just started. That's great. That whole universe that Taylor Sheridan has created with the Yellowstone is just phenomenal. But when I was sitting here thinking, I love that universe, I love those shows, I kept going back to The Boys. I kept going back and thinking, man, I want to watch The Boys again. Man, I want to watch The Boys again. So while, yes, I do believe Yellowstone is the best show on television right now, The Boys season 3 it has me wanting more, and it sticks with you.
Sure.
It's there. It doesn't leave. So yeah, that's mine. Colton, what do you got?
Oh man, I'm lackluster because I don't have time to really ever watch TV shows. So the one I watch the most of is Andor.
Oh yeah. Well.
So yeah, I'm not really gonna justify it because you made The Boys sound really good. So
it was good. Yeah. If you haven't watched The Boys yet, Colton, you need to watch.
Yeah, I need to watch that. It's on my list after Peaky Blinders.
Just watch the first 10 minutes of season 3, as Rob has said, and you'll be fine, honestly. But one thing I wanted to go back to you, Rob. So Yellowstone is something that I'm actively looking to get into, and it seems like it's its own niche little universe. So it's definitely worth a watch from what I'm hearing from you.
Yes, absolutely. It is, without a doubt, non-comic book related show. It is the best show on television. And I tell everybody this, the first episode is long. It's like an hour and 30 minutes long. The first episode of the first season is a little long. But once you get through that, because it is a little slow to start, but by the second, third episode, things really pick up. And before you know it, you're halfway through season 2 and you're like, holy crap, I got to watch it. I can't stop. So, and here's the great thing, because it does have its own little universe. There is the show 1883 and then the show 1923, which just started. Those two shows are the history of Yellowstone on the Dutton family from the Yellowstone show.
Harrison Ford's in the one that just came out, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. That's definitely an automatic hook for me. So,
but I wouldn't watch those. I would watch as much of Yellowstone as you can. If it's the first 5 seasons, watch those and then watch them, just because, I don't, not that it would ruin anything, but that's kind of how I did it. And I had a great experience. So
that's cool. Noted.
All right. So moving on to our final best of 2022. What was the best movie of 2022? We got The Batman, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, Top Gun Maverick, Morbius. We have so much to choose from. So, Colt, I'm going to let you start. What was the best movie? I don't care what it is, the best movie that you saw this year or in 2022.
Morbius. I feel like I was going to be a letdown if I didn't say that.
For sure, honestly. We set you up for that one.
I mean, honestly, I really haven't had too much time to watch anything. So, I mean, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, from what I've had a chance to watch this year. Well, not this past year. Just because, I mean, it was just highly anticipated. And, I like Doctor Strange. I've defended Doctor Strange in the 6 years we've done this show.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, I mean, it would make sense for me to gravitate to that.
All right. So what do you got?
So I'm going to go with The Batman. I thought overall it did what it was supposed to do. As I said, when I was elaborating on my expectations for the year, I thought nothing really changed the game for me this year in terms of what was brought out in front of us, TVs, movies, anything. So, for the character that it was portrayed, which is my favorite character, I thought it was, I guess, a solid job. I'm still not completely sold on Robert Pattinson's interpretation of the Batman just quite yet. I would like to see his character fleshed out a little more with a little more experience and kind of dealing with higher level villains. Although I thought the Riddler's performance was really dope and stuff. So the Batmobile was dope. A lot of the fight scenes were really cool. So I thought overall it did its job. But definitely room for improvement. But for me, that was the best movie of the year that I saw, where I sat myself in a theater and saw. Definitely the Batman for sure.
I fell asleep during the Batman in the theater.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't say the Batman. I can't. But I will say, I unfortunately didn't get to check this out in the theater. I wish I would have had the ability or the chance to. Life just sometimes gets the best of me, and I'm unable to go to the theater like I want to anymore. But I finally got a chance to watch this just about a week ago, and I'm so glad that I finally got to watch this movie. I'm going to be the one that kind of goes away from the comic book genre here, but Top Gun Maverick was phenomenal. That film, I have not felt the excitement and anxiety as I felt in that movie, in any other movie in probably years, if not decades. I can't explain, I don't know if you guys saw the movie.
No.
But the premise is, they have to go and basically destroy a little building of sorts, and they have to make it, this run through this narrow corridor of mountains, and it's almost like Death Star esque, A New Hope. It's very much Star Wars, but the way that I'm sitting there watching it, and I legitimately am getting anxious watching them. And I think it's partially to do with how they filmed and how they shot this entire scene, but it was so phenomenal. And it made me just so excited when they come out of it and you're like, yes, they did, they did this. And then it's, oh shit, now this. And then you just feel that dread again and that anxiety. And it's just the highs and lows of that movie. And granted, I mean, I was what? I don't even know if I was born yet. I think, when did the first one come out? 86, 85? I don't know. The first, I remember the first one as a kid. I really enjoyed the first one when I was a kid, and it was always one of those films that the adults would put on when we were at my uncle's house or something, and I would sit there and watch it because it was enjoyable. But this movie, there's a reason why it made over $1 billion, because it is just a damn good film. You don't have to have seen the first one. You don't need to have enjoyed the first one. This movie stands on its own, and it's a damn good film, and I there's nothing that I saw this year that has lived up to that.
Okay, cool. Got to check it out for sure.
With all that said, I want to ask you guys, if you want to do this, do you want to do what the worst movie of the year was?
Morbius.
It would be honestly. Yeah, honestly, it would probably just be Morbius or Thor: Love and Thunder, which kind of go with the more disappointing ones.
Yeah, I mean, we got the disappointing property, but we didn't talk about the worst. And yeah, I think it's going to be Morbius or Thor: Love and Thunder for sure when it comes to movies, because they both were. Oof.
When we announced we were doing an award show, I just knew it was Morbin time.
The craziest thing about Morbius I want to talk about is the fact that a fan base, not even a fan base, that the internet trolled Sony Pictures into releasing it again.
Yeah, it was Morbin time.
Because it failed miserably. And then it released on video, and then the whole Morbin time thing came about. And Sony actually thought, oh wait, people actually like that movie. Let's capitalize and re-release it. And then it did $10 in the theaters when they re-released it. It's just hilarious to me. That movie, that
it is a record. It is a record-setting movie. That is for sure. What gets me the most from that movie is the 2 post-credit scenes. Honestly, that's where it gets me. But I was lost way beyond that. Honestly, kind of what you said, Colton. As soon as I walked into the theater and saw it, honestly, so
it was my most disappointing moment of 2020.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely a great answer, honestly.
All right, so now that 2022 is over, we're going to talk about 2023. We have some big things coming up in 2023. I think this is quite possibly the most exciting year when it comes to films and projects in quite some time. Everything's starting to catch back up after the lull there was due to COVID. So we're going to talk about just predicting 2023 and what our most anticipated films or projects are, what we think are going to be the best properties, what we think Marvel or DC needs to do in the coming year to be successful. So we're just going to go down the list here. I want to know what you guys have as your most anticipated property or movie or TV show, whatever it is, of 2023. Colton, go first.
I have one for each, if that's cool.
That's fine.
The Mandalorian season 3, just because, it's just Mandalorian. And I have Ant-Man and the Wasp, just because, it has so much that could happen in it, especially with that teaser that released. Just so much happening. I'm hyped for it.
All right. So what do you got, Ken, for your most anticipated property for 2023?
Yeah, so I'm going to go on the smaller side of things and kind of go with the 2 TV shows. So I'm going to split it between Generation V, which is the first spin-off in the Boys universe, focusing on a college campus that kind of teaches young adults how to become superheroes and stuff. And if you know how screwed up this world is, you know that this show is going to be as screwed up as the Boys, honestly. So I'm really excited to see where they go with this. I think it's an exciting premise, and cast looks really cool. So definitely excited for that. And then my second choice, same platform, will be Invincible season 2. I have waited too long for this season to come out, and I honestly just can't wait to see what they do from where they left off and just the quality of the show and everything. So can't wait for Invincible season 2 to come back. So those would be my 2 anticipated shows.
Both of them are great. I mean, Gen V, I'm really interested in, obviously, coming off of the Boys season 3, how great that was. But the fact that Gen V and the Boys season 4 are actually going to be intermingling through the seasons, I think is really cool. That there's going to be characters showing up on both, and that's exciting. I want to see how they do that, because I think Amazon is now kind of starting to they're trying to find a way to take away from Marvel a little bit, and hey, we're going to build our universe now, and it's going to be a little different than yours, but we're going to build our universe. So I'm interested to see what they do there. And Invincible season 1 was phenomenal. I really, really did enjoy that. So I am looking forward to season 2. It's hard to believe that season 1 came out like a year and a half ago. It's crazy.
From what I heard, they shot season 2 and 3rd, or voice.
They did 2 and 3.
Voice directed to 2 and 3 together. So hopefully we don't have too long of waiting between 2 or 3. But season 2 needs to get here ASAP for sure.
Yeah, and then when it comes to Colton's picks for especially for the Mandalorian, I agree. Mandalorian season 3 is my most anticipated show for this year. I think that the reason being is I've just been so disappointed in Star Wars to this point over the last year and a half since Mandalorian season 2 ended, because Book of Boba Fett, it had its moments. Obviously, the Din Djarin episodes were great. The Cad Bane stuff was cool, but it really fell flat for me. And then I had my issues with Obi-Wan and Andor, so I'm really hoping that the Mandalorian season 3 really gets me excited for Star Wars again. So that's definitely mine. But I didn't pick another one, so I just picked the one. So we're going to move on to, what do we think is the property with the most pressure heading into 2023? And I'm going to allow you guys to not just pick a property, but you can also say a studio if you want, because that's kind of the big thing as of late. So go ahead, Ken, I'll let you go first.
So for me, it's probably going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. As kind of Colton alluded to for most anticipated property, it has a lot to kind of explain. Just from the teaser that we saw, we have the real first cinematic introduction of Jonathan Majors Kang into the movie, and obviously him being set up as the larger overall arcing villain of the MCU phase, multiverse phase, is definitely going to be an important first step for the character. And I'm just interested to see how it goes, because the first 2 Ant-Man movies have been very self-contained stories, in my opinion, and obviously with the ending of Ant-Man 2 referencing the larger world, it seems like this 3rd movie is going to have even a bigger scope and a bigger effect on this universe. So definitely excited, but there's things to be worried about for sure in terms of interpretation of how it's going to go over with the fans. But I'm definitely interested, and I think Marvel has a lot riding on this, because if this falters, then really going to start looking at how big of an overall picture we have with Kang, because it sounds like we're going to be seeing him in different versions of him for the foreseeable future. So definitely good to get off on the right foot for sure.
Colton, what do you got for the most pressure?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ant-Man and the Wasp just because literally probably the next 2 or 3 phases of Marvel relies on this movie. Like not even like Kang's probably going to be here for a good while until they decide who's the next big bad they're going to bring back in or bring in. So, I mean, there's a lot riding on it. Not even to mention that probably the fate of a good chunk of Marvel relies on this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, neither of you are wrong. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp that does have a lot hanging on it, especially with how poorly Marvel's been received the last year or two. But for me, I have to say I'm going with Indiana Jones. I think that this property it's such a beloved property that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Granted, while there's a lot of people who hate that film, pretty much everybody except for me hates that movie. This is where they need to redeem themselves. This is going to make or break the Indiana Jones property for the foreseeable future, for really forever. Because if this movie does well, if people receive it well, they will find a way to continue it. They will find a way to move forward with the Indiana Jones property. If it fails, if it falls flat on its face, I don't think we ever see an Indiana Jones film again for a decade, 2 decades or more when they decide to reboot it after Harrison Ford has died and moved on to another realm. That is what I think is leaning on this movie, because Indiana Jones is a profitable franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
It's one of 2 that Lucasfilm truly has. They've flubbed up one. Are they going to flub up another one? And that's kind of why I'm looking forward to this movie. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. So I hope that this does well. And I think it has a lot of pressure because of how bad the last one was, really, and what it could mean for the future of the franchise. Does Marvel absolutely need a good 2023? And I think you both have kind of said yes in a way, because everything really hinges on that of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And you're not wrong. I said it myself. They need to have a big year because the last 2 haven't been great. They've had hits, they've had misses, but there's something feels off about Marvel right now, whether it's the woke nature of some of their projects, whether it's the lack of ingenuity or pushing the bar when it comes to everything seems so formulaic now. Everything seems so copy and paste. And we've been talking about that for years. And I think a lot of people hoped that once Endgame came and went, that, okay, this is going to be a new era of Marvel. But what they did was they rushed out 23 projects in 2 years and didn't care about the quality of them. And that really hurt the brand. And I think now with Bob Iger coming into Disney, and I think we're going to see a big shift with Marvel. I think a lot of the stuff that they announced earlier or in the middle of last year during Comic-Con and everything, I think a lot of that's going to shift and it's going to get spread out more. I don't think everything's going to come out as quick as we thought. We're not going to get 2 Avengers films in 1 year. It's probably going to be split over 12 months or more as opposed to 6 months. I think that's what we're going to see happen because Bob Iger understands you need to let this stuff breathe. You can't rush this all out. And you got to give it time to give the filmmakers time to make good product. And I think that's why we're going to start to see 2023 be a turning point for Marvel. But Colton, what do you think on this whole thing?
I think the past 2 years, especially with the success of phase 4, of Marvel, we are seeing the burnout because now it's just become a cash cow. And we're going to see how many Marvel has we're going to churn out as much as we can, as fast as we can to make as much money as we can. We don't care what it looks like. Yeah. And now they're seeing the fact that, you can polish a turd all you want. It's still a turd. And that's why they should probably start pacing themselves and spacing everything out. Like you said, to, don't release the cream of the crap and not a turd.
Yeah. 100%. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, no, so absolutely. I think it's paramount that they have a really good year this year, or at least hit the projects that are important to the future of this franchise. I think they're in a weird position where it seems like they were caught between kind of using Kang as the overall villain or kind of deciding between introducing the X-Men, and it seems like they're trying to sow the seeds for that while also reminding people like, hey, this is like a multiverse kind of saga. So I think narrowing the focus to just the multiverse and kind of going the opposite of what I just said and expanding that scope on the multiverse and truly giving us like the craziness of the multiverse. Like that's something that I feel like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness kind of missed in terms of just opening the multiverse for us. So I think that's incumbent on them to kind of do that. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming out, and that's going to be a huge movie for saying goodbye to some of the characters. Seems like some animosity for sure, because I read a recent quote from Dave Bautista that was like, I don't want to be remembered for playing Drax, which is a totally respectable career move for sure. And it's just interesting, honestly. I think this year's going to bring a lot of interesting moments, and I think a lot of those moments are going to be highlighted on some of the Marvel properties that are going to be coming out.
Yeah. And speaking of Dave Bautista, I don't think he has to worry about being remembered as Drax. I think he's a damn good actor, and he's done some pretty amazing things over the last couple years. I take a look at, even though it's a small role, look at Blade Runner 2049, take a look at what he did in Glass Onion. He's a damn good actor. Even Ryan Johnson himself said like he's probably the best wrestler turned actor. And I don't think he's wrong. He's really proven himself over the last few years. Even look what he did with Army of the Dead was phenomenal. So yeah, I don't think he needs to worry about that. But no, again, we're talking about Marvel. They really need to get everything moving in the right direction here, and this is the year that really shows us what Kevin Feige is capable of doing, because he needs to right the ship. He needs to get the excitement back into Marvel, into the MCU, and how can he do that? How is he going to do that? Is the question. But it's not going to be easy for him. It really isn't, because with everything going on over at DC right now, there's some, some people are really excited about what can be coming from DC and the new DC studios and DCU moving forward. And Peter Safran, James Gunn have recently become the heads of that studio. James Gunn is pretty much the man who's really pushing the creative side of things. And he and Safran have sat down, created a Bible, created a 10-year plan. And it looks like they're going to be announcing very soon. It could be within this week, next week or two. But they could be announcing quite possibly the next 2 to 3 years, according to a Variety report that just came out today. Now, granted, this episode may drop after they talk about this all, but I want to get your thoughts, your opinions on what you think the DCU needs to do to start being successful, and what you think 2023 needs to bring. Obviously, anything James Gunn does isn't going to start coming out until the earliest 2024, but that doesn't mean he can't start setting the stage in 2023 and getting people excited. So what do you think they need to do as a studio to get people excited and to compete against the likes of Marvel? Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think 2023 is a real good opportunity for them to kind of just practice good marketing, I guess. Practice good practices, I guess you could say, in terms of handling these movies, because they have 4 movies coming out that are obviously part of the DCEU, if you want to call. That's kind of its swan song, and I think just trying to create good practices for marketing, and they have a really big trick with The Flash and how to market that. So I think it presents an opportunity of growth to learn from the mistakes that they've obviously made, so that they could really implement that into James Gunn and Peter Safran's new DCU. Personally, for me, one thing I would love to see is, does The Flash flip-flop release dates with Aquaman, so it makes a little more sense that The Flash is kind of the end of the DCEU. So that's something that I think would be interesting to look forward to next year, and see if that would be something that actually happens, because I think it would make more sense if the DCEU just ended with The Flash and kind of just left that door open in a way to kind of be like another Elseworld or multiverse to visit in an eventual Crisis on Infinite Earths or some sort of storyline like that. But for the moment, I just think they really need to figure out how they're going to market these movies, because I think they're in a tough bind in terms of people really caring or not. And I'm on the side of you really shouldn't care. I think movies coming out that are just interesting properties, so you should just watch regardless whether they interconnect or not, I think is kind of besides the point, honestly. And I think I'm really excited for almost all the movies that are coming out on DC side next year. So I really just think it's going to be and just kind of how they move forward and what announcements we're going to get. Like, are we going to get announcements before these movies come out, and then interest is more garnered towards those announcements rather than the movies? It's going to be an interesting balance for sure. And then James Gunn's going to be gone the first like 5-6 months, just marketing Guardians of the Galaxy and just working with Marvel Studios over there. So it's going to be an interesting balance, honestly, to see if that has any effect on the creative side of things, and maybe why they kind of crunched everything at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023 to kind of accommodate for James Gunn's, I guess, anticipated absence, given the marketing ploy that he has to go on for Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
What do you think, Colton? What do you think DC needs to do?
I honestly think DC needs to try to win over the fans again, because at this point, no matter what they do or what they release, the vocal minority is going to trash it and destroy it. So the first thing they should do and need to do is get that minority back on their side. Whether that's possible or not, that's a completely different story. But they need to get the fans back on their side, because if not, then it doesn't matter how good of a job Gunn does. It's never going to be enough.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it is about getting the fans on board with everything. The problem is, and we've alluded to it here in this episode, that we've talked about how there is a toxicity out there. There's a section of this fandom that is just so against what James Gunn is trying to do, and it's really disappointing. And it's great to hear. I've heard from some people who said, like, Warner Brothers isn't even listening to it. They're not listening to it anymore. The reason why the Snyderverse has been, pushed aside is in large part due to a lot of that fandom. So I get it. I understand that people are upset about it, and it sucks, but we have to give them a chance. We have to allow them to actually show us what they can do. James Gunn isn't a one-trick pony. He is able to do more than just dick and fart jokes. We've seen it. Guardians of the Galaxy has a lot of heart. There's a lot of heart. There's humor, but there's also a lot of heart. Yes, the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker was a lot of dick and fart jokes, but it was still good. It wasn't. It was because that's what it was for. It wasn't
distasteful.
I mean, it was distasteful because of what it was, but it wasn't. It fit what he was doing, because he's a good creator. He's a good artist. He understands what he's doing. And there's a lot of people who think that that's all he can do, and that the entire DC universe is going to be Peacemaker or the Suicide Squad.
No.
And that's not the case. That's not what's going to happen. And I think that they need to come out with a bang, whether it's the 6th, like is rumored, or whether it's the end of January where they come out. I really think they need to come out with a bang. I think they need to come out swinging and say, we got these next 3 to 5, 6 films that are coming out between now and the end of 2026. These movies will be coming out, or these TV shows will be coming out. Here's the director of Superman. Here's the director of this Batman. Better yet, here's the actor that will be playing Superman. Here's the actor. I think once they start getting that information out there, once they start putting out that this is the direction we're moving, these are the people we have in place, that's when the fans are going to start getting on board. For me, I love the speculation period. I love sitting there thinking, who's going to be the next Superman? Who's the next Batman? I can't wait to see this information. But I think the fans right now, they just want something. We haven't had anything. 2016 was the last time they were like, here's a lineup of films for DC, and 80% of it fell through. That's what fans want. They want to see something. And I think once we start to see something, once the fans see that something is coming, that's when I think the excitement is going to build. And I think that's what they need to focus on right now. This year, 2023, absolutely, the marketing is important. Warner Brothers is terrible with marketing, though, regardless. When it comes to their DC properties, they've never been good at marketing them. So, yeah, they need to work on that, get better at that. But I think overall, they need to make sure that they entice the fans the right way.
Yeah. And
don't lie to them.
And I think the casting speculations is something that they could really lean on and use to their advantage, honestly, because not for nothing, that would fill news cycles in terms of if we're announcing a Superman movie with a Superman attached to it, or a Green Lantern show with Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan already casted. Here's that.
And I think they need to do it well. They need to do it right. How Marvel has always done it is, they'll announce, a bunch of stuff, but then little things will trickle out. months at a time, so every 2-3 months we get some information, and whether it's leaked or purposely put out there, that information is coming out. When it comes to DC, we've never had that. We've never had information trickle out. It's been all or here's everything that Warner Brothers wants to announce, or we have a bunch of scoopers and con artists saying this. So
which is really, really refreshing from James Gunn, honestly, that he's so interactive on Twitter and just kind of goes out there and goes out of his way to kind of refute reports that are out there about his plans or anticipated plans for the DCU. He shut down a lot of rumors recently. He recently shut down the rumor that he was supposed to have a presentation on January 6th for the slate. I know that you mentioned that earlier, and I remember just seeing that he kind of refuted that as well. So
it's
definitely something within the next couple of weeks for sure. But I think it's safe to announce, or safe to think, that the first announcement that we will get will be around the Superman movie, because I think it seems like the furthest down the line in terms of development, because James Gunn has already been writing a script for a couple months on it. So I probably would anticipate that being the first piece, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something about that Green Lantern show being kind of retooled and kind of taken off the ground in James Gunn's vision, because I think that's something that was announced with the old regime and wasn't really followed up and was kind of in limbo. But James Gunn even said that that's something that hasn't been scrapped completely yet. So if the bare bones are there and he was able to just put the flesh on it, I think those are two projects right off the bat that can A, garner fan excitement, and B, get the ground rolling on this new universe for sure.
100%. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens and what they flesh out for us, because I think it's going to be, it's going to be refreshing is what it's going to be. It really is, because we've had no future in sight for quite some time, and we're finally going to see a future. And it sucks that we lost Cavill. It sucks that we've lost Affleck. It sucks that, but it happens. And the universe, the characters are not those actors. Yeah. That's what people fail to understand. All right, so we got a few more things that we want to talk about for 2023. Number one is, what is the way too early prediction for the best comic book property for 2023? I'm going to go first here, and I'm going to say Across the Spider-Verse. I think it is a little way too early to say this, but with how good Into the Spider-Verse was, you can't sit there and say that your expectations and excitement for the sequel isn't very high. So I think that it may be early, but I think it has the possibility of being the best comic book property this year. Colton, what do you got?
I want to say it comes out next year. Stranger Things season 5.
That's I don't think that's this year.
Is it next year? This year? Sorry, I am all fucked up. It's too early in the year for me to tell what year it is. If not, I'm gonna say with my most anticipated and also the scariest is probably Ant-Man.
There you go. Okay. What do you got, Ken?
I'll go Loki season 2 if that's something that's being released next year. I do believe so. So I would probably go with that. Just a premise it has to follow up on with the way that season 1 ended, and obviously with Kang being this overarching villain that we've spoken about at length in the previous couple of segments. I think something that's going to be interesting, and I thought Loki season 1 was definitely one of the better properties that they've produced out on Disney Plus. So excited to see how it follows up with the whole story and just everything with Kang. So that's definitely my early prediction.
In the same vein, I mean, what do we think is going to be the worst comic book property of 2023? I mean, for me, I'm going to say it's The Flash. I think, look, I've heard a lot about it, and I think it sounds bonkers. I think it's going to be great. And even there was reports coming out today that I saw that some people are starting to say that it's as good as The Dark Knight. Now, that's the bar that everybody uses. Oh, it's great. It's as good as The Dark Knight, even though I don't think The Dark Knight is the best Batman film. But that's besides the point. But I think it has the potential of being the worst because there's so much hype around it. And going into it, we could be thinking, oh, it's going to be one thing and it's something completely else, and we're disappointed. And but if it's not The Flash, it's going to be Aquaman. But what do you think, Ken? What do you think could be the worst?
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same boat with you and kind of voted for The Flash. I think it was just everything. The storm that's forming around this movie is just bad, honestly. Like, it's whether it's a good movie or not. And I feel like every DC movie that's come out, for those early reactions that we see on Twitter, every movie that's been released since The Dark Knight has been as good as The Dark Knight, honestly, in my opinion. If you see all the Twitter opinions that come out from the early screen reactions. But yeah, I mean, just the publicity around everything that's going on with The Flash, and just the fact that it's not even as important of a movie as it was set up maybe 6 months ago than when we thought. So it's just, it's I feel like it's going to be a mid for me, but just with everything surrounding it and the bad omen kind of surrounding it, I think it's definitely going to be a little more disappointing than I even anticipated. So Flash definitely has my vote for that category.
What do you got, Colton?
Morbius. Nah.
You're telling me you want to see a Morbius 2? Come on, Colton.
I mean, honestly, it's a clean sweep. The Flash is not going to be good. There's nothing. There's no way it can be.
Just look at the costume. The cow is just like, who signed off? Whoever signed off on watching and saw that on a screen and said, this is okay for one of our flagship characters, just needs to lose his job, lose their prospective job. Like, there's no way you looked at that cow and was like, yes, this is what we're going with. Like, just no way.
And whether it's leaked or what, have we seen those images of those posters? Those posters are horrendous. Their marketing is terrible. I don't understand how a company like Warner Brothers can be so bad at making posters and marketing films. I don't get it, but they have always been bad at it.
And then you have the second Flash, I guess, of Michael Keaton's Earth. Seems like he's going to be the comedic relief in this film. And believe me, it is not what we need. Honestly, we did not need an idiot version of Barry Allen throughout the whole movie, which I'm hoping it's not the case. But if I just had to guess from everything that I've heard and seen from that iteration of Barry Allen from that Earth, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting the premise of the movie of Flashpoint, where we could have really delved into some really dope shit, but instead we're getting some miniaturized version of the Flash with a bunch of very questionable decisions, honestly.
With that, what do we think will be the surprise comic property of 2023? Blue Beetle.
Yep.
Blue Beetle, I think is going to be great. Zolo, what's his last name? I can't remember. The guy who plays in Cobra Kai, he's a great actor. And when there was ever any discussion about Blue Beetle, that is who I was like, they need to get him, and then they did. So, I'm excited to see what he can bring. I like not knowing right now. I have no idea what they're going to do with this movie, and that's why I'm so excited about it.
Yep, right there with you, Rob. Honestly, definitely right there with you. I think Blue Beetle is going to be the sleeper movie of the year, and definitely a breakout performance. And really interesting, I thought maybe Blue Beetle would present an opportunity for Gunn to kind of push that into his universe and kind of make that like maybe a film that ended up being released in 2024. But seems like it's just going to be a one-off and kind of figured out which. And I've said this before about this movie. This movie was originally made for HBO Max. Yep. And the fact that it was bumped up to a theatrical release with everything going on with Batgirl and everything definitely is interesting and shows the faith that they have in this movie, just given the quality of it. So I'm excited. The costume looks pretty dope. I hope that some effects can definitely help with that, but I definitely think it's going to be a dope movie, so definitely with you on that one.
Anything, Colton, or you just agree?
No, I agree. Blue Beetle looks dope as hell.
All right, and for our final lookout for 2023, who is the actor or actress that we should be looking out for in 2023 that we think is just going to blow us away with their performance? And let Ken go first with this one.
So for me, it's going to be Sasha Calle for Supergirl and The Flash. Despite everything that was said, I'm really excited for this interpretation of the character, and I think it's something that we should be on the lookout for. I hope that it kind of captures and emulates kind of the demeanor that Henry Cavill brought to the role a little bit, since it seems like it will be based off of a child between his iteration and Lois Lane. So hopefully, with Henry Cavill's positioning, obviously currently, and even within the movie, because there's rumors that he will be killed by Zod as a baby and stuff. So I just hope that Sasha Calle can kind of regurgitate that interest in Superman as a character and even Supergirl. So really cool that we're going to see Supergirl on screen for the first time. I think her costume looks really dope as hell. So I'm just hoping that it's not butchered, which like I think the rest of the movie is. So really looking forward to her interpretation of Supergirl.
What do you got, Colton?
Honestly, I just hope everybody has fun and does good. I mean, honestly, I
play ball.
I do. I hope that like no one has a shitty performance. I hope everybody goes out there and kills it. I mean, I honestly, seriously. I mean, not to give a super like yay answer, but honestly, I hope no one sucks.
No, definitely.
I hope that next year we have a harder time deciding who's not sucking.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely
to give an honest answer. Tobe, my weenie dog. I hope he's the best actor.
For me, and I mentioned it earlier, Iman Vellani, who's Miss Marvel. She's going to be in the Marvels. I think she's going to just blow us all away in that film. She just brings so much to the screen, and I'm looking forward to see what she is able to give us with expanding her character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's going to be exciting. But there it is. That is our award / review / what are we looking forward to show. I thought this was a lot of fun. This was something that was different. We've never done it this way before. And this is the first time we had all three of us on the show, which has been phenomenal. Yeah. Hopefully we can do this more often down the line.
Won't be the last time.
No, definitely not. And like I've alluded to in the past, we got some great big things coming up for Bridging the Geekdoms. Some things have changed. Some things are going to continue changing. I think it's going to be for the better. So make sure you follow us on all the podcatching apps, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, all that jazz. Find us on those podcatching apps. Make sure you subscribe, like us, follow us all on the Twitters, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, all of that. Share this video around and let us know in the comments what you think. Were we right? Were we wrong? What do you like from last year? What did you hate from last year? All that jazz. Throw it in the comments below. I've been getting some pretty cool interaction with some viewers on the last few videos, so I hope to see that continue with this because it's fun. I love talking to the viewers on everything. But you guys got anything else to say?
Hopefully 2023 it is a Morbin time.
It's Morbin time.
It's always Morbin time, no matter what it is.
Well, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. The hosts here were Robert Slavinsky, myself, Ken Yambo, Colton Bird. I can't talk, so sorry, Ken, for screwing up your name there.
No, it's totally cool.
Please subscribe. You can hit that QR code on the screen to find our link tree, and you can get ways to contact us or follow us all right there. So it's pretty amazing. But again, thank you everybody for checking us out, for watching. And this is going to be an exciting year. I want to hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's what I want to hit. We're at 1.4. Let's hit 2K in 2023. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you all later.
Bye.
Peace.